Greeks are very fond of coffee, which is drunk all day in various forms, and one of the most common, especially among older people, is what is called the Greek or Turkish coffee. You put a teaspoon of very finely ground coffee into a special small pot called a briki, together with a little bit of water, and then you can decide how sweet you want this to be. You either drink it scatto, which means you don't have any sugar, then the coffee will be bitter, or you use 1 teaspoon of sugar to 1 teaspoon of coffee, which gives you the medium sweetness coffee, the so-called meterio, or you take 2 teaspoons of sugar to 1 teaspoon of coffee, and then you get what is called the glyco, which is the sweet coffee. These are the only generally accepted 3 sweetness levels, but each shop makes it slightly differently, so it can turn out that the meterio coffee of one shop is as sweet as the glyco coffee of another shop. The only one that you can be sure always to taste the same is the scatto, because this does not contain any sugar. Now the coffee is brought to a boil, and after it boils it is poured into the small traditional coffee cups together with the coffee powder that is still in it. So it is not filtered in any way, and this means that at the bottom of your cup now you have this sludge, this coffee grounds, which are now sinking slowly in the coffee and covering the ground. This means when you drink it, you have to be careful not to stir it. This is also the reason why you cannot add sugar later, because then you would upset this sludge at the bottom and distribute it all over your coffee, which you don't want. And also, while you drink, you have to stop drinking before you start drinking the residue at the end. So it requires a little bit of judgment when you have to stop drinking, so that the last sip you drink is not the sludge. And another thing to remember is that milk is never added to a traditional Greek coffee, so it is always black. The frappe is the second very popular type of coffee, which is drunk in summer, particularly by younger people, often, tourists also, at beaches, because it is cold and refreshing, while the traditional Greek coffee is a hot coffee. And to make the frappe, you mix 2 teaspoonfuls of Nescafe instant coffee powder in a small sip of water, and then you add the sugar. Again, it's roughly the same as for the Greek coffee. So the scatto frappe does not have any sugar, the meterio has as much sugar as it has coffee, and the glyco has double the sugar from the amount of coffee. And then you use a particular machine, a beater, mixer, but it is a special one that is made for this Greek frappe, and you can buy this in every shop, in every convenience shop, in every supermarket. These are very cheap. They have battery-operated ones. There are some that use electricity from the socket. And you use this for a few seconds, up to a minute, to beat your coffee sugar water mixture to produce a very thick and creamy foam. And this foam fills about a third of your cup, perhaps. And then you stop beating it and you fill up the rest of the glass with ice cold water, and at the end you can add some milk if you like. This is a very refreshing drink because it is essentially only cold water with some coffee and sugar and a bit of milk. The problem is that often nowadays when they make it, they don't use fresh milk, but they use a kind of evaporated canned milk, which has a very weird chemical taste, and it's itself sweet, and it is not really milk. It doesn't taste of milk. It has its own very distinctive, very heavy taste, which is not very enjoyable, I think. And so the problem is that many shops use it because it keeps longer than fresh milk. So if you can, and if you prefer fresh milk, you have to ask for it, by asking if they have fresco gala, which is the fresh milk. And if the shop does not have any fresco gala to put in your frappe, then perhaps you bring your own, or you buy a small box of fresh milk from the next supermarket and put it in your frappe, or you even make your own frappe at home and bring it along instead of buying it on the way. All coffees in Greece, regardless of whether they are Greek or frappe, are supposed to be served with a glass of cold water. Nowadays, the glass has mostly been replaced by a plastic bottle of cold water, unfortunately, which creates a huge problem with garbage. All these plastic bottles, one for every coffee, have to go somewhere, and they end up in landfills. So if you can avoid this would be good. You could, for example, say you don't want it with water and you bring your own bottle of water. But if you get water, you have to remember that the water is supposed to be free. You're not paying for this water. So if the shop wants to charge you for the bottle of water, then you should not go there again. The water should always come for free together with the coffee, even if it's a small bottled water. Now, thanks for watching and have fun enjoying your coffee in Greece, and how to order it you will learn if you watch this video here. Thank you. See you next time.